Today I want to discuss with you how to get your kid to sleep through the night, because I know new parents, this is what your biggest feat is going to be. Please subscribe, it does help me out. If you're finding they're waking up, say after a month or a couple of months old, and they're waking up because they're wet or anything like that, it's generally because their diaper is too small. So one of the things you want to do with that is generally upsize. So if you wear say it's a size 3, go to a size 4 for overnight diapers, and that'll give you a little bit extra absorbency to get whatever that urine up, so that they're not waking up in the middle of the night cold and wet, because that's generally what will wake them up most often. The other thing you might want to do is apply a skin protectant, so this will help prevent diaper rash. If your kid gets a diaper rash, every time they go to the bathroom, they're going to scream because it burns when it hits a rash. So by anything you can do, avoid a diaper rash. If you don't, you're going to be up through the night. One of the best things that we've used to avoid diaper rashes is just applying a thick coat of Vaseline before we put our kid down with that upsized diaper. The other thing you want to think about, just like you and me, we like to sleep in a particular temperature, so you have to kind of figure that out with your kid. So sometimes some kids sleep a little colder. I wouldn't go much anything colder than like 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and some sleep say up to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. We try to keep ours, the room, around 73 degrees Fahrenheit. It seems to be like a happy temperature for our daughter, but we keep the rest of the house maybe a little bit colder or warmer. And what you can do is either have a window AC unit or a small like oil bath heater or something that's not extremely hot, because you don't want to ever have a situation where they could ever touch that. Or I just don't like open coil heaters because they have been linked to fires and things like that. So like oil-based heaters, they're a lot safer. Now the biggest one, this is hard for a lot of people, but you want to keep them to a routine. You want to have a schedule. Kids like to know also what they're doing to some degree, even if they tell you not. So if they're really young and you're under 2 months old, you're not really going to have any schedule whatsoever. You're just going to pretty much be around the clock every 2 to 3 hours, getting them up, feeding them, changing them, burping them, doing that whole routine. Putting back down. They sleep for maybe like an hour or two. They wake back up, and you go through the whole thing again. As they get closer, like 2 months and older, then you're going to start to go into about, say, two or so naps a day, and you're going to sleep through the night. After that, when they get over a year old, they're going to drop down to about one longer nap mid-afternoon or early, like noon, 1, 2 o'clock, maybe for an hour or two. And then you're going to keep them up for the rest of the day. So just one nap, and then that'll get them to sleep through the night. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is if they sleep throughout the whole day because you just don't have time to play with them or something like that, they're going to have so much sleep that they're going to be awake the entire night, and they're going to keep you awake. So it's in your best interest to find something to occupy them the entire day, minus that 1 or 2 nap time frame, and that way you get a full night's sleep. So basically, keep them moving. Anything that keeps them moving, you want to tire them out. The other thing that we use is a white noise machine, and what that does is give just a little bit of noise, and that helps drown out some of the background noise that happens throughout the house, because kids go to bed pretty early. So if they go to bed at 7:30, you don't really want to go to bed at 7:30. You want to stay up and do anything else that you have to get done. So a white noise machine does help quite a bit. I also use this for myself. They're really handy. Also, you want to have a bedtime routine. So you wouldn't want to have all the lights on right before they go to bed. You don't want them watching TV and doing all this stuff right as up till the time they go to bed. So if you can, try to turn the TV off maybe like 20-30 minutes before they go to bed. Dim all your lights. Don't have your cell phone or any loud noises. Try to keep distractions to a minimum and help them to just calm down. Now, the other thing that this does is your body naturally produces, I believe it's melatonin, that helps to convince yourself to basically it's time to go to bed. And that happens when there's a low light or no light around. So with the kids, just lower the lights, and that'll help them to get calmed down. Try to just keep a calm atmosphere. And then what you're going to want to do is make sure you get them fed. Change them right before they go to bed because you want the most amount of absorbent diaper material left for the rest of the night. Put some Vaseline on them or any skin protectant. There's a few others out there. And make sure they're dressed warm enough for the room and the room temperature is good. And you just put them down in their crib. You might, read a bedtime story or something like that as well right before they go to bed. If they do cry, one of the hardest things that new parents have is you have to let them at some point self-soothe. So I'm not saying right away, but a couple of months in, if they, whine a little bit, not a heavy cry, but let them try to figure out for a few minutes how to self-soothe. If they can, and all kids can, I've never heard of a kid dying from crying too much. Basically, they'll lay themselves back down, they'll go to bed, and if they get up, they'll do the same thing again and put themselves back to bed. Now, of course, if they're sick or there's something wrong, it's not going to be a normal cry, and you'll start to understand the difference of just like a normal whine versus like something's wrong. And in those instances, by all means, go in and get them. Whatever you do, do not co-sleep. If you establish that behavior and that habit of sleeping in the same bed with your child, they will assume that's normal. And I've seen people that have kids that are multiple years old, sometimes as old as 10, where the kids will still sleep with the parents, meaning the parents have no alone time, and if you leave or anything like that, the kid keeps waking up and coming back into the room. And that's just, it's rough because you're not going to have the same exact sleep schedule as your children, and it's best for them to be in their own sleeping environment rather than being with you all the time, because if you have to get up in the middle of the night or something, you're just going to wake them up. You want to feed your kid right before they go to bed. That gives you the longest duration of time before they're going to wake up to eat again. So when they're first born, this is going to usually give you about 2 to 3 hours at a time. If you can, and if there's more than one of you, I highly encourage, try to sleep in shifts. Someone takes night shift, someone takes day shift, and try to alternate between the two if you're able to bottle feed or to pump and then bottle feed it all. Otherwise, you're just going to be up every 2 to 3 hours. When they start to get around 6 weeks to 2 months, you should try to start to wean them off of the night feedings. So you feed them right before bed and try to get the longest duration out of the night, and they'll usually let you know. So our daughter, she at about 6 weeks, she started sleeping about 8 hours a night or more. But when we were starting to have to wake her up to feed her in the middle of the night, we found that she was actually no longer needing it, so we were just letting her go until she woke up at that point. When your kid's about, say, 1 or 2 years old, in that range, they don't actually need to be fed throughout the night, so they're able to sleep through the whole night. If they get up to cry, it's generally not because they're hungry. Now, that being said, you want to make sure you give them a good meal before they go to bed. And you also want to make sure they drink and got anything that they need before they go to bed. So troubleshooting. Like I said, the first 1 or 2 months, there is no schedule. Basically, they're going to be up around the clock for about every 2 to 3 hours, depending. If you can sleep in alternating shifts, that's going to be your best option. Hopefully have some time off from work. So the questions I would always go through for my list would be, are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they hot? Are they cold? Are they sick? Are they running a fever? Are they gagging? If they have spit up, maybe they might have a little bit of acid reflux if this is more than once in a while. Do they have a diaper rash? Are they red on their bottom? Do they seem to cry or have some pain whenever they urinate or go to the bathroom? Could they be constipated? When's the last time they pooped? A new parents, it's good to note, especially if you're handing each other, like taking shifts and you don't always know the last time they went to the bathroom. The hospital, what they would give you is generally, it'll give you like a date, time, when you fed them, did they have a wet diaper, did they have a, number one, number two, did they spit up, and then just kind of like note when you've done something, when's the last time they pooped. So if it's been a while, it could be that your kid's just constipated, and depending on their age, they have different things that can help with constipation. I know Miralax is used pretty often, but there's a few other things depending on how serious the constipation is. You might find that if they're very young, that they just might be gassy, they need to be burped. Are they wet? Is there anything that's itching them? So like imagine if you had a tag that was scratching you the whole night, you probably wouldn't sleep that well. So it's those things like when you get clothes, make sure that you pull all the tags and everything out and make sure they're well washed so that there's nothing that feels a little funny on them. You also don't want to change your detergent too often. If you do, if your kid has sensitive skin, that might lead to other types of rashes, but you'll find that out soon enough. It could also be teething. So for teething, you can either take a rolled up like washcloth, put it in the freezer, something that they can chew on, and that can help. They also do have teething rings and teething items that you can put in the freezer so the cold helps, that they can chew on that. And then talk to your doctor, but I've heard if they're very young, some will use Tylenol, and then as they get a little bit older, they're allowed to take like Motrin, which lasts a few extra hours. So these are not going to be a cure-all. It's just to help them. But again, talk to your doctor, your pediatrician, and they'll advise you what to do and not to do. How do you know what the right temperature is? So a good indication is if when your kid wakes up, you go up, touch their hands. If their hands are cold, the room's probably too cold. If their hands are hot, it's probably too hot. If their diaper is completely soaked and you can feel their clothes are soaked, it means either they've had too much fluid right before bed, or their diaper is too small and you just need to upsize it. Give it a try. Upsize the diaper. It does wonders. Well, I hope this gets your kid to sleep through the night, and hopefully your whole family can enjoy a well-rested life. So, well, thank you for listening, and please subscribe. It does help me out. Thank you, and have a great day.